Joins us now, former Utah Congressman and Fox News contributor, live and in person, because before he's only been on satellite, Jason Chaffetz.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
This is a role you've played in Congress. I saw you do it really well. How did the committee do laying out the idea that the federal government was censoring certain users and a certain political perspective on Twitter?
Well, I appreciate the reporters actually coming up and testifying. I don't think they had to do that, but the Democrats exposed who they were. You know, they have been marinating in this narrative as opposed to looking at the truth and what's actually out there. And they've conflated that. It's as if you listen to the Democrats ask these questions, it's as if they've never heard this story before. You know, if you watch Fox News, you watch Fox Business, you read online, you would know this. You've seen this play out for a long period of time. But these congressmen and women got up there as if they had no clue in the difference between the narrative and the truth. And that's what's kind of scary about it. So I think they exposed themselves for who they were.
Didn't people do they know they're embarrassing themselves? Debbie Wasserman Schultz, I actually, sort of felt sorry for her, but she got up there and Matt Taibbi was just trying to explain. She went after him and he was trying to explain, I do stories with whistleblowers. So yes, I work with people who have an agenda. That's the nature of using whistleblowers.
They have decades of experience. These are not right-wing so-called, bloggers out there. These are people with great accomplishments. And they say, if you interview somebody like a Schellenberger, he'll tell you, I didn't vote for Trump. I don't support Trump. I'm not. But when I look at this and I look at how the government apparatus has been used as a weapon. Now, to Sean's point, you were in Congress as well, the question that you brought up, the next step here is, why was the federal government so involved and engaged in pushing things like, going against the terms of service? If there was such a national narrative out there, if there was such a threat to America, how many people did they arrest? How many people, what were the laws that they were trying to prevent? I mean, because they had a dragnet of 80-something people there within the Federal Bureau of Investigation that was peppering these social media companies. And hats off to Elon Musk for releasing information through his organization. Somehow it got out to these reporters, and they released the so-called Twitter files because now it's exposed for everybody to see.
Well, it's a good point, because Taibbi and Schellenberger both are not rock-rib conservatives at all. Right. They're liberals, but they have more fidelity to the Constitution and its principles, like free speech.
They're doing reporting, heaven forbid. And the Democrats, it's as if they've never seen it before.
Yeah, Dagan?
No, this is all about the Hunter Biden laptop story, the suppression of it ahead of an election, and the fact that the FBI was sticking their hands in it, right?
Neck deep in.
So Lena, this is another layer in this story, that Lena Khan, the chair of the Federal Trade Commission, demanding the names of journalists that were granted access to Twitter's internal files by Elon Musk, Jason. We only know this because of a Judiciary Committee panel looking into the weaponization of these agencies. This also goes to the unfettered power of these agencies, the growing power.
This is the problem, right? They have federal regulators that can be the judge and the jury. They can threaten a publicly traded company by saying, you're going to have to disclose in your 10K, you're going to have to disclose out there that we're doing an investigation. But, we can avoid all that if you just turn over your sensitive information, release to us, who's doing the speaking out there. And then, maybe we won't do that. They could threaten these companies with everything. It needs to be exposed. It happens regularly, and there's nobody worse at it than the FTC that's being run by the Democrats at this point.
But when we were in Congress, we suspected that there was a left-leaning nature to the federal bureaucracy, but that Band-Aid's been ripped off, and instead of enforcing laws, they're actually engaged in political advocacy, and that's what you see playing out right here.
Where's the intellectual curiosity by the part of the Democrats to pepper these people with actual questions about what was really going on? Yeah. Since when did the Democrats suddenly they're fighting against journalists exposing an overreach of the federal government? The old Democratic Party has far gone and left us. Your dad's Democratic Party, it's no longer there.
We're going to violate the First Amendment because these journalists are exposing a violation of the First Amendment.
Yeah.
And like Lena Khan, these are spotlight-seeking, vindictive, unelected tyrants. And you can't get rid of them. You think Fauci's bad. Whoa.
They're puppeteers. They're the puppets that actually, behind the scenes, this is part of the Democratic agenda to move these puppets in the right direction, to suppress and push things that fill their social narrative and what they want to accomplish politically.
In other news today, President Biden in Philadelphia rolling out his new budget, along with trillions of dollars in new taxes that come with that budget. Fox News White House correspondent Peter Ducey is in Philadelphia with the president and more. Peter?
Dagan and Sean, President Biden's back of the napkin math looks like this. Cut the deficit roughly $3 trillion over a decade by raising taxes about $4.7 trillion over a decade on the wealthy and on corporations.
Anybody who thinks our present federal tax system is fair, raise your hand. No, I'm not joking. People making $400,000, you don't think it's fair.
The president is trying to contrast himself with what he calls MAGA Republicans, who he says have no plan to preserve Medicare or reduce costs. The House Republican leadership responded to this all at once with a joint statement. Part of it says, quote, "For every dollar the federal government takes in, we spend $1.29. Under CBO's new projection, that number will go up to average $1.34 over the next 10 years. This is a spending problem, not a revenue problem." It sounds like this budget may be DOA in the House. So we asked President Biden about that. President Biden says he is ready to sit down with his Republican counterpart, Speaker McCarthy, as soon as tomorrow to compare budget proposals, see where there may be some agreement, try to pass something. Dagan and Sean.
Peter, thank you. All right, let's bring back Jason Chaffetz. Jason, here's what frustrates me. And when you talk about taking budget serious and debt serious, Joe Biden wants to raise new taxes to the tune of trillions of dollars. We don't work on balancing our budget. We actually go trillions of dollars more in debt over the next decade. Is this serious?
Yeah, no, it's not, because the Congressional Budget Office scores things in a 10-year window, as you well know. The Democrats' budget never balances. At least they are introducing one, because last year, an election year, you look over at Patty Murray in the Senate, they never even had bothered to introduce a budget. They just did continuing budget resolutions. Since the 1972 Budget Act, which was supposed to do things, only one time have they gone through regular order. And that was, guess what, the one year with Newt Gingrich at the helm there in the House that the budget actually balanced. Now, imagine what you're going through now, because they don't do regular order and they plan it. The president submitted his budget a month late, and never balances. And guess what? There's a reason why they become cliches and stereotypes. Democrats want to raise taxes and spend more money. It's that simple, folks. There has to be a 10-year trajectory. I believe we need a balanced budget amendment. That's just me. I think Congress will never get to doing that. But you have to do that in order to solve the problem. But Democrats, they want to raise taxes to balance the budget. But the all-time record high revenue to the United States Treasury in the history of our nation was last year. We have a spending problem.
If you didn't know he was a socialist before now, you sure as hell know today. Because looking at this, the new wealth tax on, it's billionaires, it's a 25% minimum tax. It's actually on people making, I think it's more than $100 million, but it's actually a wealth tax. It's not on actual income. It's on unrealized income. That's socialism 101. I think that's the way it works. $5.5 trillion in new taxes and $2.2 trillion in new spending. That's over the recent baseline. And because I'm a nerd, The top personal income tax rate, all in, 44.6%. That is the highest since the mid-'80s. That's how high he's willing to go, or higher.
If you think you're just going to go after billionaires and it'll just solve the problem, they'll pay everything, that's not, it never works that way. When you raise taxes on corporations, when you raise them on the energy sector, that hits everybody. You don't, not just people making more than $400,000 a year. That's hitting your 401ks, that's hurting you at the gas pump, that's hurting you everywhere you go. Why do we have so much inflation? Because the government spends so much money. It is an absurd amount of money.
And what's concerning is you go out 10 years, we're going to spend $1.3 trillion a year just to service our debt. This is a massive bomb that's going to go off. Jason Chaffetz, thank you for joining us in person.
Glad to do it. Better in person. It's
Way
always
better
in person.